All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of the Forge Your Life podcast here today with your host, Richard Fu from richardfu.com. And today, guys, I'm excited because sometimes I tag myself as the virtual COO. So it's amazing that we're going to get a virtual CFO, Chief Financial Officer, on here on the show today. He's not only that, he's also the founder of Dream Builder Financial, an accounting firm that specializes in helping online entrepreneurs really sort out their finances to get them in the right spot financially. And I know many online entrepreneurs are friends of mine that don't like that stuff. So I'm excited to learn more from him. And not only that, he's also a profit-first professional, and he's going to share more about that, but also he is the business profit strategist. And I'm excited because it's always amazing to have someone who's in accounting actually not talk about just pure numbers, but actually strategies. And that's why I'm excited to have him on the show. His name is Moshe Amsel, and I'm excited to have him on. So guys, please welcome Moshe on the show. Moshe, good to have you on.
Richard, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. And after an intro like that, wow, I'm going to have to really live up to it.
Man, I know you will, man. I know you will. I know it's late over there as well. And so, Moshe, for the people who haven't heard about you and your work, man, could you share a bit more about who you help and how you actually got there?
Sure. So I'm the owner of Dream Builder Financial. We're an accounting firm, and we provide virtual CFO services specifically to the online business space. So coaches, digital product creators, information product creators, authors, speakers, membership site owners, all of those folks out there, we service them all. And virtual CFO services are basically, instead of you having a CFO in your office, with a sign on the door that says CFO, you're just going to use us instead. And basically, we do the same thing that person would do in your business. Today's day and age, with online businesses, we're pretty much outsourcing everything. You try to keep as lean as possible, and one of those things is outsourcing your accounting, your tax, your business strategy. And the beautiful thing is that, you pick up the phone, you call us and you say, hey, I'm thinking about investing in this particular course, or I'm thinking about starting this product line, and this is what I want to charge for it, and this is what I think I'm going to be able to make. What do you think? And then you got the think tank in our office that we're going to, we'll sit down and run those numbers for you and try to figure out, what your KPI is going to be. That's your key performance indicator. And what is it going to cost you to get this to market? And then, will it have legs, and what the potential is, as far as making money from it. What should your dollar spend on your ads be, and all of that stuff. So we really help you figure out the financial side of the business. Entrepreneurs typically are creatives. They've got big ideas, and it's our job to either help them make that idea fly or bring them back to the ground and tell them, hey, listen, you're smoking something.
You're smoking something. And I love that you bring this up, Moshe, is that, most entrepreneurs I know anyway, are great with the creativity, great at the startup, in terms of the detail stuff, which is what the CFO role kind of needs. And I love that you have such a service, because it's very similar to what we do with the operations. But we take care of the operations, and I believe this, and I'm sure you subscribe to this too, Moshe, is that you want to take away the stress, the things that drain the entrepreneur, the owner, and the things that they hate, so that you give them more freedom to actually go out and do what they love. Is that true, man?
Absolutely. The best example I could give is my own personal example, which is, I go out there and I want to market my firm. There's a tool, Canva. Everybody says, go make your own graphics. I sat in front of Canva for an hour and I was like, I am not doing this. I can't tell whether blue and orange goes together. And it's not for me. I could spend hours and I could come up with something that looks half presentable, or I can pay somebody to work for an hour and put out this beautiful thing. So, I'm a big fan of outsourcing the thing that feels heavy to you, the thing that feels hard to you, the thing that you're just not good at. And the key is to recognize when someone else is better at doing something than you. And that's the trap that entrepreneurs fall into, is because we all feel we could do everything. So it's recognizing that this is probably not the best use of my time. And when it comes
Mm.
to finances, you could sit there and agonize over creating a business plan, or we can sit on the call for an hour and I can whip one out for you.
Mm.
So how does that sound? Does it sound easier than spending, a week or 2 weeks trying to figure it out yourself?
Yeah, man, I totally understand what you're saying because it's the same thing that I do here, right? It's like I sit down with the business owner for now and like, all right, tell me how you do your client onboarding so that we can create the training materials and all the templates so that you never have to do it again and that someone else does it. And I'll tell you this, like they usually hate me. Moshe, I'm sure they probably hate you on that call too. It's like, oh, that 1 hour I gotta work through this. But then afterwards, it gives them so much more freedom after that. And I think this is the thing that we do here and my business is like we want to help them stay in their genius zone. And I feel this huge connection here with what you do because that's all you want them to do is just do the stuff that they're amazing at and don't pull them out of it, but just keep them in there, isn't it, man?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the challenge that I have in my industry, and I don't know if you have the same in yours, or in my side of the business, the financial side, is that people may not realize that they need the service that I provide.
Mm-hmm.
And I was at a conference and I was talking to a fellow podcaster who's an attorney, and we were talking about the fact that people tend to come to us, the attorneys and the accountants, after they're in trouble. So they don't
Yeah.
they don't think about proactively taking action. And now you're facing an audit, and then suddenly you're opening up Google and looking for the nearest accountant to call and try to get out of the mess, or you're being sued by somebody and you're looking for an attorney to get you out of the mess. The reality is that we do so much more than just helping somebody through an audit. And we really can help you amplify your business and increase your profitability far quicker than you would be able to do on your own. And recognizing that is the first step, because if you can recognize that, then you understand that you need somebody like us. Mm-hmm. And now it's just a matter of finding someone that's the right fit. Because, honestly, I'm not the right fit for everybody. And I'm sure you're not the right fit for everybody. Yeah. We'd like to think that we are, but it's got to work. So, but the first step is to actually recognize that you actually need that service.
Yeah. And I love that you bring this up because it was something in my mind is that, for me, like it's the same deal here, right? It's like, having a CFO or having a COO, it's hard to justify. And this is the thing is, most entrepreneurs are starting up. They're like, where's the ROI, right? What's my return on investment? Exactly. How much will I get from investing in a CFO or a COO? And I think, for your side of things, or from my own experience, is that a lot of that time they have to experience that pain of not having that time, of being pulled away from their kids, of not being able to go anywhere and do anything because they're stuck being trapped in their business doing everything. And it's only then that they realize, actually what, Moshe, I mean, my time's really important and I would pay someone to do those graphics for me in Canva because I don't want to do it anymore. I don't have the 4 hours a day to do it anymore. And so I'm interested in your perspective here. Is like, I mean, I know you say that most people come over to you when they're in trouble, but when do you think is the right time for someone to actually bring and connect with a virtual CFO or someone to take over their finances?
Well, the truth is that I have a blueprint that I give out as a lead magnet to my potential customers, people who are thinking about starting a business. Mm-hmm. Okay, so these are not my potential customers. They're not going to be paying a virtual CFO when they're first starting out, right? Yep. But eventually they will be. My blueprint that I give out to them, it has your validation, and underneath your validation is your business plan. And underneath your business plan is your entity creation. You need to have your accountant chosen by the time that you're going to do that entity creation. Mm-hmm. You can create the entity yourself, but you got to have somebody in your corner that you can go to and run things by and just ask them the simple questions. I'm about to spend X amount of dollars in my business. I mean, just the basic example. If you spend the money before your business is technically a business as far as the IRS is concerned, now it's considered startup capital, and a startup expense has to be amortized over 15 years. Mm-hmm. Whereas had you started your business first, and then made that expenditure, you can expense it that year. So just that one little thing of not knowing can cause somebody to make a mistake that they're paying for 15 years. And then it's not that they're not going to get the money back eventually, but they could have been in a much better financial position now instead of waiting 15 years to get that expense deducted off of their revenue every single year. So that's just a small example of, just not knowing is going to cause you to end up taking action that had you known, you'd be better off. And then the other thing is new business owners, this is what happens when they start their business. Number one, they have no idea how much money they need to have in the bank before they start, right? So right away, you're setting yourself up you're basically gambling on your success, right? If you create a business plan and you have a plan of how you're going to get from A to Z, then you know how much money you need in the bank before you're profitable and before your business is self-sustaining. But if you don't do that, now you're just hoping that you have enough money to get yourself to profitability. You're believing that you have what it takes to get there. So right at the beginning, the entrepreneur, if they're not doing this in an organized fashion, they're setting themselves up for failure. The next thing that people do is they start spending money out of their personal account. They don't separate their personal finances from their business finances. They don't track their expenses. They don't start accounting software and start entering everything into the accounting software. So what ends up happening is you're your first year in business, you're spending money and you have no way of tracking how much you're spending. You don't know how much you're spending. At the end of the year, you can't do your taxes cleanly because you have no idea what's a business expense, what's a personal expense. You have no way to prove it either. So now you're just guessing. So chances are you're leaving money on the table with the IRS. Your business is in disarray. You have no idea whether or not you're profitable, whether or not you're actually making money, losing money, because it's all just one big mess. Yes. If you get with somebody at the beginning and have them organize it for you, you can start off the right way. And on month one, you'll know how much did I spend, how much did I bring in, and what am I left with? Did I lose money? Did I make money? Where am I? Compare that to your business plan. And every month you do that check-in and you're able to see, how did I do? Compare it to my business plan and let's readjust and move forward. And having that clarity is also going to move you forward exponentially faster, because everyone knows that if you have a written goal, you're gonna make much greater inroads to reach that goal. And if you don't check in on that goal every month, you end up deviating from that goal. You end up getting, falling by the wayside. You get shiny object syndrome. You start chasing a rabbit down the totally different path of what your business was supposed to be doing. So all these things work together to create success. And when you're not doing any of them, or you're not doing some of them, you're basically just creating a situation where you're crippled. You're like trying to run a marathon, but you're putting one leg in a cast. That's basically what you're doing.
Oh man, I love it. And I love that you've been sharing this, Moshe, because it's so critical. Is that so many times, and this is some of my own clients, right? I come in, I'm like, hey, so how do you manage your finances? Like, we really don't. And then it's like, oh, we made this many sales. I'm like, oh, okay, how much of it went into the bank? And it's like, only a percentage of it. Like, then that's not counted, right? I mean, that's not cash flow. That's just on the book revenue. And all these other very simple things. And I'm glad that you brought up, even for a startup, right? When someone is just starting out, if they don't know certain things, then they could be missing out on a lot of other things. And I'm glad that you've nailed it down to this, is that, you're not targeting the startup, because the startup is a gamble. They're not, and this is the same for us, is that we don't go with someone who's just started up. You have to be proven. And when I say, I'm sure you agree with this, I think that's your validation step, is you put your product or your service out to market and people actually want it. And then by that time, then that there's a need, and the business is actually building from there. Then from there, I mean, like, what other tips do you have, Moshe, for people who are struggling and don't know what to do in terms of their finances side?
Okay, so one of the things that I have that we've taken complete ownership in our firm is to implement Profit First for all of our customers.
Mm-hmm.
Profit First is a book written by Mike Michalowicz and really took off in the United States. And he's releasing a revised and expanded edition of the book on February 21st. I'm not sure when this podcast is coming out, whether it be before or after, but in this book, he lays out a cash management system
Mm-hmm.
that puts all the accounting software aside, takes all of that out of it, and it makes a lot of sense. And it's way too long to go into every single detail in this podcast, but I have my own podcast, and it's called Dream Builder Financial. 3 separate words: Dream Space Builder Space Financial. If you search on iTunes, Stitcher, you can find it. I'm doing a 3-part series, so 3 episodes on Profit First. So if you really want to get the nitty gritty and understand the logic behind it and see how beautiful it is, it makes so much sense for the layperson, for the entrepreneur who doesn't know anything about finances. If you know what a bank account is and you know what money is, you can do Profit First. Okay.
Yeah.
So the revised and expanded edition is actually being released by a publisher. He self-published his first book, so it's going to be available in other countries that it wasn't available in the past.
Mm-hmm.
So I strongly recommend that anybody who's considering going into business, who's in business, read this book, because what it does is it takes human nature and it applies human nature into a cash management system that really gives you clarity on your business. And essentially it works like this. You have 5 bank accounts.
Yep.
Your first bank account, the top one, is where all the money that's coming into the business goes in.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. From there, you take your predetermined percentage that's supposed to be your profit, and that goes into your profit account.
Mm-hmm.
You take your predetermined percentage that you expect to pay in taxes, and that goes to your tax account. So let's take an example. So let's say you want 10% profit, 15% to go to tax. So 25% came off, went into these 2 accounts. So now you have 3 bank accounts that are already spoken for.
Mm-hmm.
The next bank account is your owner's pay.
Yep.
So you as the owner are working in the business, right? So you have to take home a paycheck to feed your family.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're in the early stages of your business, owner's pay is going to be the lion's share of this. So owner's pay might be 50%.
Mm-hmm.
But as the business grows and the numbers are larger, you can get away with a smaller percentage of the revenue that's coming in as owner's pay. So now you take your 50% over owner's pay. So we've taken 75% of the revenue out. You're only left with 25% to go towards your expenses. That's going to be your operating expenses account. And what happens is that people tend to do bank balance accounting. They wake up in the morning, they log in, look at their bank account, and they say, I've got no money here. We got to go collect money from our accounts receivables. We got to go hit the road and close some sales. We got to do something because we got to cover payroll in a week, right?
Yes.
Or you wake up in the morning, you look at the bank account and you say, holy crap, we got 10 grand in here. Let's go buy some furniture for the office, and let's buy another printer, and let's invest in some ads on Facebook, whatever it is, right? So entrepreneurs, they don't look at their accounting software, they look at their bank balance, and that's how they make the determination on where they are. So the beauty of the system is that it forces you to take all those things off the top. So the only bank account that you're looking at for your business decisions is that operating expense account, which is the account that's left after you've taken off everything else that you needed to take off. And this way, you're making decisions based on what you really have available to spend, and not based on fictitious numbers, which includes all these other things. Because if you're not putting away money for tax, well, you're going to spend it on something else. And then when it comes time to pay your quarterly estimated tax payment, or whatever country you're in, however you pay your taxes, when it comes time to pay it, you're not going to have the money because you didn't put it aside all along, right? If you don't force yourself to take profit all along, come the end of the year, you will have taken home a paycheck to feed your family. But what do you have to show for your business, for the fact that you own a business and your efforts in the business? Nothing. So if you take off the profit beforehand, now suddenly, let's say your profit that you're taking off is 10%. 10% is high for somebody who's just starting. So please read the book, listen to my podcast episodes before you start implementing this from our brief 10-minute discussion about it. But let's say that your profit that you're pulling off is 10% of your revenue, right?
Yep.
And let's say that your revenue for the year is $200,000. Well, now you just took a profit of $20,000 over the course of the whole year, besides for the money that you normally would take home as your paycheck.
Yep.
Suddenly, it feels like you actually did something, right? I worked a whole year in my business, and look, I've got 20 grand put away. I can take the family on a vacation, and I can buy my next car. You know, like, or buy a $10,000 more expensive car than I would have bought in my regular household budget. Whatever the things that excite you and make you happy, you now have money to spend on that and actually feel fulfilled with the efforts that you did in your business. So it's really a beautiful, beautiful thing. And it's so simple. Anybody can do it. But that being said, a lot of people don't want to do it themselves. They want to implement it, but they want someone else to do it for them, which is why we're Profit First Professionals. We can actually implement it for you. So we can sit there and do the bank transfers for you as that money comes in and just manage the whole thing, so that all you need to do is wake up in the morning, look at that bank account, and know how much money you have and go about your business.
Man, I love it. I love it. It's kind of like, it's like the T-half acre, money jar system, but this is for the business itself. And to hear it taken out from just that side, it's quite exciting to hear for me, because I'm like, oh yeah, why can't we just do that for the business as well? And so let me get this straight then, Moshe, to make sure we got the jars in order, right? So you have the profit jar, which is the profit for the business. Then you have a jar for the taxes, so that you can pay the tax man. Then you have the owner pay, right? The one that you pay yourself. And then the fourth one is the expenses, right? And then what's the fifth one? The fifth one's the first one where all the money comes in. Is that the revenue jar?
Correct. So your revenue has to come in somewhere. So it starts there at the top of the funnel, and then you first take off your profit, then you take off tax, and then you take off your owner's pay, and then finally what's left is your operating expenses. Now, there are advanced, methods to the system. So as you implement this, you may decide that you want to add additional jars, as you're calling them. So for example, there's something called a drip jar, where if you have revenue that you collect up front, but it's for a year's worth of work. So in my industry, that would be, you have a membership site, and you're charging $100 a month for the membership, which is $1,200 a year, but you want to give people an incentive to buy it up front, because this way they're not canceling in the middle of the year. So you give them a $200 discount, you make it $1,000 if they buy for the whole year, right? So now you collect that money up front. If you immediately distribute that amongst your accounts, it's not really going to give you an accurate picture of the business throughout the year, because you have to still provide that service all year long, but you already collected the money at the beginning. So the drip account basically is where you put all of the stuff that's paid up front annually into that account, and then every month you take 1/12 of that and put it into your revenue account, which then gets trickled down through the accounts. So that's one advanced strategy. There's another advanced strategy, which is if you're planning to make a large expenditure in the business, so you have to buy a piece of equipment, or you have to do, in the online space, you're going to be doing a large promotion, so you need to have $50,000 to put into Facebook ads. So you might have a separate account that you're saving that money in, and you squirrel that away, and that would just be an additional account on top of the 5 that we already discussed. So there's different advanced strategies, and they're all discussed in the book, and you can come up with your own also, because it's not, once you understand the system, it's basically a glorified envelope system, or like you said, jars, which everybody's grandma knows how to manage money that way. But today's day and age, most people are not doing that. And it's just using bank accounts to do it, because when you're dealing with large numbers in a business, it's not very realistic to use cash and envelopes. But it's the same concept.
Man, I love it, because I'm the systems guy, right, Moshe? So I'm just like, oh man, this sounds so awesome, especially when you're talking through the drip system. Like, man, yeah, a lot of people think that I take 3-month upfront payment, but then they forget they still have to provide that service, and then if something changes, you can't recognize that revenue until it's already been delivered. So it's some great advice, Moshe. I'm loving it. And so, this does it sound like you're mostly helping people in America set up their own online business, or what about, like, have you guys looked into other countries? Like, what if you did Singapore, for example, where the taxes are quite ridiculously low?
Okay, so um, I- we don't specifically say that we only service the United States.
Hmm.
We can only service the United States from a tax perspective. So, in other words,
Okay.
if I'm going to file your tax return for you right now,
Hmm.
we don't have any international accountants on our staff,
Hmm.
um, but everything else that we do, all of the virtual CFO services that we do, other than actually filing your taxes for you,
Hmm.
can be done anywhere, any country, any business. Doesn't really matter. We specialize in online businesses because today's day and age, accounting software is all in the cloud. And what happens is that there's thousands of applications that communicate with the cloud accounting application,
Hmm.
and each industry has use of a specific subset of those applications. There's no way in the world that we'll be familiar with all 1,000 applications.
Hmm.
So instead of trying to figure it out for every client that walks through the door, and then we got to do all the research and the testing and then find out 6 months in that it's not doing a certain report that we want and we're not happy, we got to switch the application. We targeted one specific niche so that we can get super familiar with all the applications that need to live in that ecosystem, and we know and we become experts on how to integrate that and how to make it work for them. And this, that's how we provide the best value. The reality is that we could handle anybody, any industry, anywhere in the world with what we're doing.
Hmm.
But right now, at the stage that we are with growing our business, we're specifically targeting online business owners. But there are other accountants doing the same thing that we're doing in other industries. So if there's anybody who's listening and you're in a different niche than the one that we service, certainly look for an accountant that specifically caters to your niche. Don't look for the accountant that's down the street, the generalist,
Yep.
because what's going to happen is exactly what I just said. They're not going to be familiar with every single application out there. They're not going to be able to give you the best direction for your business, the best advice for your business.
And I love that advice because it's so often we run to the general doctor and think that they know everything, but they don't. And that's why it's so important to get the specialists in. So even for myself, I have like a specialized property accountant in Australia to look after my property investments. And so it's great advice here, Moshe. And I love what you're sharing here. And Moshe, I mean, like, so for the people here who are listening and they're thinking, okay, I don't like to handle the finances. What services can you actually provide to them so that they have a good idea of what's available when they connect with yourself or someone of similar stature?
Okay, so my firm does not do the bookkeeping itself. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so somebody who's working with us, they might need to hire a bookkeeper separately or a bookkeeping firm separately. Some of the firms might include the bookkeeping in their services. But what we do and what we pride ourselves in is we try to get you to the point where 90% of your transactions are happening automatically in your accounting software. Okay, so basically, we'll hook up all your bank feeds into the accounting software, and then we'll take your transactions and we'll analyze them, and we'll create rules in the platform that will automatically categorize them based on where it's coming from, what the dollar amount is, and whatever different criteria that we can use to determine that. Generally, it's based on the vendor. Sometimes if a certain vendor can end up with different categories, then we can base it on other details in the transaction. But we're able to take the money that comes in the bank feed and automatically categorize it. It enters into the books and essentially takes most of the bookkeeping out of the equation. Then all that needs to happen is somebody needs to go in and look at the stragglers and say, okay, what is this? What is this? What is this? Categorize it. And if you're working with purchase orders, obviously that still needs to be entered, but that's always started by somebody in-house. So you don't need a bookkeeper for that. You just need somebody who understands how to enter it properly in the first place. And then everything can be matched up with each other. So what we do from an accounting perspective is, and we have a few different packages. So we have like our bronze, silver, and gold package. So our bronze package, we basically do tax service and your basic profit first assessment. We give you the guidance on what you need to do for profit first, but you have to implement it yourself. Our silver package, we're already going to be going into your books every month, and we're going to be doing so there's adjusting entries that need to be done at the end of the month to close the books out, get everything to match up. We do your bank reconciliations. We'll set up your bank feeds, and we'll do all, we'll get all that set for you. And then what we'll do is we'll run monthly reports for you. So we'll run reports on your profit and loss statement, your cash flow analysis. And what we'll do is we'll then write up an email to you in English. So you're not trying to read the profit and loss statement, which is in accounting financialese, right? And we'll explain to you how it looks like, how your business did. And we'll send that report over to you with the explanation. And we'll also get on the phone with you 4 times a year to discuss strategy and just check on your plan, your trajectory of the business. We unlimited email support at that level, and then from the Profit First perspective, at that point we're already helping you implement. We're helping you open your bank accounts and do your target allocations every month, and there's another thing in there, the 10/25 process, which is you only pay your bills twice a month, the 10th of the month and the 25th of the month. So this way it takes, instead of every day needing to worry about, what am I going to pay today? What can I push off to tomorrow? By doing it twice a month, you're meeting all the deadlines, because usually bills are either due the 15th or the 1st. So the 10th or 25th, you get those payments in on time. So we help you with your, figuring out what you need to pay on the 10th and 25th and get those checks processed or the electronic payments ready. And so we'll implement all of that for you. At the gold level, the top level, this is where basically you own us. Okay. So anytime that you have a question, you pick up the phone, there's unlimited phone support. We'll get on the phone with you as many times as possible to come up with, to discuss anything you need to discuss. And then the other thing is at the gold level, we're going to be involved in your business plan and your budget every month. Okay, so every month we're going to review your business plan. We'll add the next. So what we believe is that you need a rolling 12-month business plan. So every month, the last month falls off. So we look and see, hey, did we meet our goals or our projections? If not, now we need to readjust for the next month. But that has an effect going forward for the next 12 months. So let's readjust the next 12 months and talk about, where we want to be and how we're going to get there. And if we missed and we need to fix it, figure out why, then we can, do that at that time. And then the budget is different than the business plan. The business plan is what we would like to have happen. The budget is setting up how we're going to spend our money to make sure that we don't spend more than we make, we don't run out of money. So we also help you create the budget, and then nobody deviates from the budget, throughout the month, unless we, if you need to deviate, something else has to give, right? So a budget is all predetermined. So if you got to spend $100 more in one category, you got to figure out how to spend $100 less in a different category. So we'll go back and just revisit and make sure that you kept in line with the budget. Now, we use ancillary applications like I discussed to do all of this. So your business plan is in an ancillary application. So it's automatically feeding the data in. So we immediately know how you're doing. There's a dashboard we can look at. We can look at it together. We can figure out, how did you maintain your budget? Did you not maintain your budget? Did you meet your business plan objectives? Did you not? And all of that can be done right there in the software. So we put this all together for you, on the software side, but then we help you with discussing it and figuring it out and moving forward. And then the last thing, and this is the thing that you can't really, these are all line items on a sheet of what we provide as part of the service, but the one thing that you can't put on the sheet and articulate that well, but I'm going to try to articulate it here, and that is that in the business, you have the 80-20 rule. So, and that applies to every single part of your business, right? So, 20% of your customers are bringing in 80% of your profit, and 20% of your employees are bringing in 80% of your productivity. So we every month go through your business with a fine-tooth comb with the 80-20 rule, and we just try to make sure that you're getting the maximum productivity out of your employees. You're getting the maximum revenue and profit out of your customers. We help you figure out whether a customer needs to be dropped, and believe it or not, guys listening to this podcast, hello, not every customer is worth keeping.
Yep.
Okay. Some of the customers are going to be a pain in the neck. And some of the customers are going to be bringing in a lot of money, and you have to do so little work for them. And you're wondering, why in the world are they paying me what they're paying me? Right. So you gotta keep the ones that you're questioning why they're paying you what they're paying you, because those are the customers you want. The ones that are the least pain in the neck and are bringing in the most money. Those are the ones that you want. And then you want to figure out, what are the characteristics of those customers, and let me find more customers like that. Get rid of all the ones that are driving you nuts, okay? Because you want to enjoy doing your business, and you want to get the most profit for the least amount of effort. And, so constantly going through that exercise is something that we do as part of our service. And it's something that business owners have a hard time with, because there's all this emotion that gets in the way, right? So if I tell you, listen, we did this analysis and you have to fire this employee because they're not carrying their weight. We all know it. Nobody's willing to say it, but so we come in and we tell you, this is what you got to do. And now it takes all of that emotion out of it, because if you're trying to do this analysis yourself, you start to justify, well, that person needs a job. I hired them. It's my fault. So let me figure out how I can get them to do what I want them to do. Maybe I didn't train them right. Let me train them some more. And this goes on and on and on. And you carry them along, and they're a boat anchor on your company, right? So not just are they pulling you down, but other employees see that this person is working, and they're like, why in the world are they paying this person? I'm doing so much more work than them. And God forbid you're paying these people the same amount. So now the people who are producing start to have a decrease in productivity, because they feel like they're not getting paid enough for what they're doing because of what this other person's doing. So you got to stay on top of all of that stuff to run a lean and efficient business. And, that's all part of what you get when you bring us in. And, it's hard to put a dollar amount on that.
Yeah, I know, man. And that analysis is not something that can be easily broken down and shared to show someone the real value of that exercise. And so I'm glad that you got the chance to share it here, Moshe. And so, Moshe, this pains me, man, because I'm enjoying this so much, because I'm learning so much here, that we got to start wrapping up the show here. And as we wrap up the show, Moshe, we're going to go through our quick 5 question rounds. And I'm going to start with our signature question here. And the signature question is this, Moshe. It's what we call the time travel moment. And basically, if you could go back to any moment in your life, Moshe, and talk to little Moshe and give him a piece of advice that you know today, when would you go back to, and what would you tell him?
This is a tough one, because I'm going to be very honest here. I'm going to go back to myself at probably around the age of 13 or 14, when I was just starting to really discover the value of money. And I actually stole money from the local synagogue. And, right now I operate. Honesty is my best policy, and my ethics are sky high. And there isn't a day that I don't regret having done that, having acted that way. And I think that it took a lot of years to undo that dishonesty to become the person that I am today. So I think that all family life, business acquaintances, business success, everything is based on ethics and honesty. And, people need to be able to trust you to be able to for you to do anything in life. So I think that if I can go back and tell myself to, not to do that and start off the right way at that point, who knows where I'd be today.
Wow. Awesome. And thank you. I honor you, man, for being honest and openly sharing that. The next question I have for you, Moshe, is, you've read a lot of books, right? We've mentioned a few books here. But if there's someone who's listening to this show and they know that they need to get themselves organized, what's the must-read book you would recommend to them?
Well,
Mhm.
I've touted the book Profit First a couple of times in this podcast,
Mhm.
but when it comes to financial organization,
Mhm.
um, Profit First is the best book that you can get because financial organization in the accounting software is one thing, but to be
Mhm.
financially organized and to actually be able to use it productively every day, a totally different thing. And that's what Profit First does. So that would be my book of choice as far as organization goes. Because
Awesome.
for me, it's financial organization.
Yeah, awesome, man. We'll add that into the show notes. And the last question here I have for you, Moshe, is really about, I guess, what does a company that's truly, or even for yourself, right? As you build this virtual office, virtual team here, what does true wealth look like to you, man?
Well, for me, wealth is all about family. There was actually a Facebook post that I saw yesterday where
Mm,
somebody posted about Kimra Luna. And I don't know if you're familiar with her, but Kimra Luna she's running a multi-million dollar business right now in the online space. And they posted something from her that was from 3 or 4 years ago where she was basically touting her services for $300 that she was giving 4 hours of her time plus a follow up. Plus, I mean, there was a few extra bonuses on there, and and this person posted, and they were like, look at what can happen in 3 or 4 years of just working hard, sticking to it. And I posted a comment on that, and I said, I'm running $1 million family right now, and I hope to be running $1 million business one day. You know, everything that I do is family centered. The reason that I started the business was so I could spend more time with my kids,
mm,
and the reason that I want to build wealth is so that I can leave a legacy for my grandchildren, great grandchildren, and so on. So, to me, wealth is having a quality family, not just that you have kids. And it doesn't have to be kids, by the way. It could be that you're, involved with a charity, or that you have extended family that you're involved with, but having an immediate family bond, social circle that you absolutely care about and live for and breathe for. If you're able to have that, you're wealthy. Money doesn't define it.
awesome, awesome. Thank you so much for sharing, Moshe. And so, Moshe, as we wrap up the show here, I mean, is there any other topics or anything that you want to share that we haven't had a chance to talk about on the show today?
Um, no, I mean, there's a ton that we could talk about. So you'll just have to get me back on the show another time
I'm sure
to
there is.
cover
Yes.
some more. But I will, if you don't mind, I will throw out a couple of links for the audience. So
Mhm.
first of all, Mike Michalowicz has been kind enough to offer a private webinar for my audience. For anybody who purchases the book. So there's going to be a link, dreambuilderfinancial.com/MM for Mike Michalowicz. If you go there, put in your email address. I will shoot you an email with instructions, but basically you don't have to buy it through any affiliate link or anything. I just want to see that you purchased the book. So if you'll email back to me and send me the receipt, and you'll be registered for that webinar. And he's going to be basically talking to us about the differences between the first and the second book, and details like that. And that it's going to be great. He's a great speaker. Listen to my podcast. It's not out yet, but it'll be out on February 17th, where I interview him, and you can see that there's going to be a lot of value there. So that's the first thing, and then the second thing is if you want to download my entrepreneur blueprint, which is basically the building blocks of how to get your business started. If you're just starting out, then go to dreambuilderfinancial.com/blueprint, and you can download that there. So, and both of those will put you into my ecosystem. So I'll start emailing you about my podcast and any other exciting things that we have going on. And if you want to, you'll from there you'll get instructions if you want to book a call with us because you want to take us, take our virtual CFO services or some subset of that, and we can work from there. And lastly, Richard, I appreciate you having me here on the show, and I hope that I provided value to the listeners, and I hope that for the ones that really enjoyed what I had to say, that they come and check out my show as well, Dream Builder Financial, over on iTunes or Stitcher.
Moshe, I mean, like, it's a pleasure having you here on the show, breaking down the myths on the boring accounting side that so many entrepreneurs like myself get caught up in. And so it's awesome to have you on the show just to shatter that. And so I thank you and I honor you for jumping on the show and just sharing your wisdom here, man.
Appreciate that.
Awesome. And so, guys, this wraps up another episode of the Forge Your Life podcast, here today with the virtual CFO himself, Moshe Amsel. And I know Moshe doesn't want to keep this a secret. I don't want to keep this a secret. This has to go out there. We got to free up more business owners who are trapped in the financial space that just keeps draining them away. So we want to do that. So I know this, Moshe wants this, and I want this. We need to share it out there. So if you head on over to iTunes to rate the show, and that will help us share his message and everyone else who we've had on the show here as well. So guys, we're going to do that. Head on over to richardfood.com to grab all the show notes and resources that Moshe has shared. And finally, guys, remember to go out there, go live with love, go smash it. And I'll see you again in the next one.